Hi, I'm Charles Hatley, and this is Rebecca Malone, with Malone Hatley PC, where we truly are your partners in divorce. One of the questions that we've been getting frequently is how do I handle my divorce if I have a special needs child in Fairfax, Virginia? This is wildly more complicated, right? A divorce with children is already hard enough, but when you have a special needs child and you have special considerations to take into account, understanding what those considerations are and what you need to be doing as a parent in Fairfax County is very important. So, Rebecca, my first question is, I don't want to be too pedantic, but special needs is a very broad category. What is kind of the minimum threshold for what the court will consider to be a special needs child?
That is a really great question. I am not aware of any sort of minimum threshold, right?
Mhm.
You can kind of get there in any different direction. But if you have a child that needs some additional support, they need some additional therapy, they're struggling in school, they have an IEP, sort of any number of things, then the court can absolutely make considerations for those particular needs of that particular child. And the code allows the court to say, well, what's the best interest of the child? And we have a whole long list of factors. And then it basically says, and anything else, right, that might be relevant. And so that's where it kind of fits in is if you have any sort of special circumstances around a child, the court can factor that in when making a custody and visitation determination.
Absolutely. And I've seen children come in with extreme ADHD that require special help. That both parents go to work, and the child, even a 15-year-old child, really shouldn't be left home alone. And so it's requiring a nanny well past what a normal nanny age would be. So
Right.
in that particular instance, the special need is the need for the nanny, and that needs to be taken into consideration when you're talking about child support and the expenses that the child's going to incur.
Mhm.
The second question we get all the time is, how do I get child support for life when I have a special needs child?
Right. So that there will be some additional kind of scrutiny, some additional
Mhm.
criteria, because what the court is looking at is this a person who can graduate high school and at some point, live on their own and be self-supporting and all of those things. And when you have somebody that has special needs, they may or may not be able to do some or all of those things, right?
Mhm.
There are a lot of opportunities out there. There are a lot of assistance programs where someone might be able to live kind of quasi on their own. They may be able to work a very limited sort of part time position or something along those lines, right? So it's really going to depend on that individual's level of ability. So what the court does is they'll assign a guardian ad litem, and that person is there to really investigate this particular child's circumstances and figure out this particular child's level of need, at least for the foreseeable future. Because as you know, if you go in at age 15, it's going to look different from age 18, which is going to look different from age 20 and 25 and so on and so forth. So once the child is getting close to 18, that's the time to initiate that petition, get your guardian ad litem assigned, and that way you're in the best position to keep support going. You're not going to go through a time period of losing it and then trying to get it turned back on.
Absolutely, and I'm glad that you brought up the guardian ad litem because that's another question that we get all the time: is what is a guardian ad litem? It's an attorney appointed for the benefit of your child alone. But when you're working with an attorney, you need to work with somebody that is willing to stand up to a guardian ad litem. I'll give you a story. We had a very special needs. We had two special needs children, and the one of the parents was a doctor and went out and bought a multi-level staired townhouse or whatever it was, just multi-level stairs everywhere. The children's bedroom was on the third floor. These children couldn't walk. They were in wheelchairs. There was no accessibility in this townhouse. And we had a guardian ad litem show up and be like, well, the other parent's a doctor. It doesn't matter that the children can't technically get to their rooms and would have to be carried up and down these stairs by somebody who works 18 hours a day. And, we had to stand up and say, that is absolutely absurd, and take the GAL to court and say, look, Your Honor, this is absurd. We need to get this GAL removed to the case. So that's one of the questions we get. How do I remove a GAL from a case? Showing that what they're saying is just absurd to that level. The
Mhm.
final question we get is, how do I stop child support now that my child is 18 or 20 or 25 and I don't think that they're really needing of child support anymore?
Right. So again, it comes down to what is that child's capability? What is their earning capacity? What's their potential? Have they shown that they can work full time, that they can live on their own, be self-supporting? Do they need any sort of assisted living, anything along those lines? Or are they really able to adult on their own? And so if you've had someone who maybe they had some level of need, but now they're kind of turning that corner where they're able to be completely self-functioning, that's when you can petition to modify, either reduce or stop support. And basically what the court will say is, okay, we don't need it now. They could still come back. You can petition for it again in the future if it's necessary, right? But it's all about what the circumstances are at the time that you're going into court and presenting that case to the judge.
And that's a tough case, right? Going back to court and saying, Your Honor, I don't think my child is special needs enough for me to continue to pay, because it feels like you're just doing that so you can quit paying. I had a case where dad came to me and said, Look, I don't think my daughter is as special needs as mom is claiming. And he felt really bad about it. He really did. He felt extremely guilty. He had a phenomenal relationship with his daughter. He was spending half the time with his daughter. But it turned out that, his daughter, who's now 22, 23 years old, she couldn't live on her own, but she was almost perfect at coding on computers and was sitting at home and working and making more than mom and dad working on a computer. And we were able to go in and show the court that while she can't live on her own, she was actually making enough money to be self-supportive. And my client had a lot of reservations about doing that because he's like, I just feel bad about it. And fortunately, once he was able to sit down and talk with his daughter, she understood completely, because she didn't really know about the child support fight that was going on behind the scenes, because mom still just wanted to get child support, even though daughter was putting her money into a joint account with mom. So, there's a lot of questions that surround special needs, and a lot of emotions that surround special needs, and sometimes we find even guilt when somebody wants to question whether or not, a child is truly special needs and needs extra care, versus like, hey, this is just a child that needs, a little bit of help. So if you or someone is going through a situation, Fairfax County is a tough place to litigate a divorce, and adding a special needs child in the mix makes it even more tough. Give Malone Hatley PC a call. See the difference that a partner can make for you and your children.